What is going on, guys? Craig 1287 here, bringing you a Q&A from subscriber Panch 2000. He just, wanted to ask me some questions, and so we've got a series of this Q&A of, all sorts of things. And if there are other, things that you would like for him to ask, go ahead and ask them in the comments section here, and we can add them to some of the future Q&A type of deals. And this is just, some lengthy discussions about things, his thoughts and my thoughts on things. So hope you guys do enjoy this. And in the background, there's just going to be all sorts of random gameplay bits. I think there might even be some Serious Sam 3 there. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a good one. Ta-ta.
So, first question, Craig. So, what is your favorite video game and why?
Favorite video game of all time?
Well, either one.
All right, yeah, sure. We can just do favorite video game of all time. Definitely would have to be as an old PC game back in the '90s called Planescape Torment, and it was an old RPG. You've probably heard of Dungeons and Dragons, things like that.
Yep.
It was built on the engine and used all the same statistics and whatnot. I was never too big into D&D, but when I was introduced to this game, and it uses the D&D universe, I guess you can call it, and it was just, graphically it doesn't really hold up probably today, but in terms of the content of it, the story of it, the philosophy that they touch on in the game is a very thought-provoking game, and it just, I've replayed this game so many times. I've repurchased it many a times. I've got it on disc, CD. I've got it digitally through goodoldgames.com, and just, I've purchased this thing so many times, and replayed it so many more times, and it's just a different experience every single time. It was way ahead of its time for sure.
Okay, so number 2 question. So, what's your opinion on the whole Call of Duty versus Battlefield thing?
The whole Call of Duty versus Battlefield, like the games themselves or the community?
More of the community, because you always see Call of Duty nerds bitching about how bad Call of Duty is, and how good or how bad Battlefield is, and how good Call of Duty is.
Well, yeah, the community is a whole another beast of its own, and rather than just the games, because the games are very different.
Yeah.
Like in anything, a lot of games have copied Call of Duty because it's a very arcadey type of thing. Not many games have copied Battlefield because it's a much more complicated thing. Typically, the typical stereotype, I guess you can call it, for the community members of the two games is, Call of Duty is like your bro gamers, guys that are in college, the guys that buy, they buy Madden and they buy Call of Duty each year, and they love to trash talk online and things like that. And then Battlefield, you see, because of the slightly slower pacing of the gameplay, but it actually
not
ends up
necessarily. If you play on Conquest Operation Metro 64 players, it can get pretty damn crazy.
Yeah, and just look at my play style alone. I'm constantly moving, constantly pushing, always on the front lines. So it does differ on your play style. But you obviously, there are times in COD when because I played COD back in the day, where I would have games where I'd go, 80-1 and things like. You just can't do that as an infantry player in Battlefield. Typically, the higher kill streaks, or higher KDs are the jet pilot or the gunner on the helicopter and the tank. That's typically what it is, because it is just a lot easier to it's a lot more difficult to go on a killing spree in Battlefield as an infantry. So it's somewhat of a slower gameplay, but and just the complexity. You don't have to deal with going against vehicles and destruction in Call of Duty. It's a lot.
Well, in World of War, you kind of have to, but you didn't really have to in any of the other games.
Yeah, and that was there. There's really only one tank on each map for that.
Well, I never played World of War, but I think it's 1 or 2 per team. I don't know.
I think it was just one, and it wasn't that good of a tank. It was. The maps were not designed for that, so that thing couldn't really even traverse anywhere. But it's just the typical players. You you want to assume that they're older players typically, or at least much more mature players. Anybody can be mature, then even older people can be very immature. Just turn on the television and watch some of the stupid, crappy shows that they got out there. But that aside, yeah. So typically, the community for Battlefield is a little more mature, but like I said, they're both such different games that it's just kind of a you can have and enjoy both for their different experiences. One of the things that I liked about what Battlefield 3 did was with the close quarters game mode. You had that sort of COD type of size of the maps, and you had just there were no vehicles, so it offered a COD type of play style or a setting, and still
Yeah, honestly,
had.
I think Dice just did that to like draw over some of the Call of Duty players because money's what makes the world go round.
Yeah, and I think that I've said this in a few other cases where I think that Battlefield 3 was just the beta for Battlefield 4 because the DLCs they tested all this different playstyles probably to try not only just to offer all these different experiences with the game, but also testing. All right, how much did this one sell? How much is this one still being played? Okay, how much did this one sell, and how much is it still being played? So they can look and see at look at all their statistics and figure, all right, this is how we need to make the maps designed for Battlefield 4 because this is what was really successful with Battlefield 3. So Battlefield 3 was kind of a beta for Battlefield 4, especially with the DLC.
Okay.
But yeah, so Battlefield it offers it's just a much more varied experience. You can go and do Bandar Desert 64 players and get a true Battlefield experience, and then you can go and do Operation 9 to 5 with 24 players or whatever, and you can get a really Call of Duty experience. So it's just more varied, and that's why I'm primarily a Call of Duty or a Battlefield player.
Yeah. And the thing you talk about the DLC leads pretty well into our next question, which is, which DLC in Battlefield 3 do you think did well and why?
By far, I mean, if you can't tell from just the videos that I upload primarily, it's all aftermath footage. I try to fit in some of the vanilla maps here and there. It's just difficult to find some of the armored kill maps these days.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, they that AC-130 just needed a ton more balancing. That really ruined
Not
it.
really on Conquest, but in Conquest, honestly, is pretty balanced.
Yeah, Conquest it's much more so balanced because both teams can get it, but in Rush, yeah, it was just constantly attackers always won. If you were an attacker in
You pretty much always win.
yeah, if you lost, then that was just go commit Harry Carry or something. That's a bad experience. So it needed to be.
Sorry to all the samurai out there. Just saying.
Yeah. So it just that really screwed it up. And then aside from that, on the console side, still being limited to only 24 players, that really hurt it on console. So
Oh hell yeah! Like 24 players, Bandar Desert, and if you don't know, I'm guessing I'm talking to the audience here. I'm guessing that you do know, but if you don't know, then Bandar Desert is the largest map in all of Battlefield history. And imagine on console only 24 players. You cannot find shit.
yeah,
Honestly,
so
you cannot find shit unless you're in a jet.
so yeah, that was just all sorts of badness that Armored Kill had to go for it, which is really a bummer because that was kind of like the true Battlefield experience pack with massive maps and tons of vehicles and just very dynamic gameplay. So that was kind of a bummer, and those were some of the most beautiful maps as well. I love Bandar and what was the Alborz Mountain? I love the look of that. Those are some of the most well-designed maps. They just weren't balanced with that AC-130 and player count for consoles. So, but yeah, Aftermath was those are some of the best designed maps I've seen in any shooter, not just Battlefield games, but the design of them is so fantastic. They added a lot more destructibility than the default vanilla maps had. Still not to the level that like Bad Company or say the Back to Karkin maps, but still a good bit more destruction and just again, fantastic level design. The close quarters I really enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't a true
Mhm.
Battlefield experience, but the
Yeah, I
level
don't
of
really like close quarters that much because it just didn't feel right. You know.
it's a good distraction. I mean, when you've
Oh
done just so many of the big vehicle maps, and you get fed up with getting killed by yet another tank, getting killed by yet another helicopter team that just is so good at communicating with each other that they know exactly when to pop flares and just go land and repair and they're back, and so you do get fed up with that in a Battlefield experience, and that's also what you enjoy because you have this. It's kind of like when a boss shows up in a single player campaign. It's like you got to talk with your team and coordinate and all this stuff to really take out the boss. But then you have the servers that are instant vehicle respawn, which
oh
negates
my god.
all of the communication that you guys just put
Mhm.
into taking this vehicle out. So I mean that pisses me off in and of itself.
Oh
But
yeah.
so you get fed up with just getting killed by vehicle after vehicle, explosion after explosion, and things like that. So you do just kind of want to, all right, let's hop on to close quarters, do some just
Mhm.
gun infantry fights
Oh yeah.
only, and just have fun with that. So
Yeah, my side, with my game, with my gameplay style,
mm-hmm,
and since I do play on console,
mm-hmm,
I'd probably say my favorite DLC was probably Endgame because
hmm,
like I'm I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none. I do a little bit of infantry, do a little bit of vehicle combat, and Endgame just has everything. It has the dirt bikes, it has the
mm-hmm,
anti-air jeeps, it has tanks, it has choppers, it has jets, it has everything.
mm-hmm,
And the maps are not too big. I mean, there are slightly bigger than some of the vanilla maps, but they're not too big, which
mm-hmm.
means I can still find people on console to kill.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, I really enjoy Endgame and Aftermath. I also enjoyed Aftermath because it was extremely good for infantry combat. But then again, some of the maps, you really just can't find people because there's all these nooks and crannies to hide in. I mean, sometimes there'll be like three guys all capturing a flag, and I cannot even find one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of hiding spaces. I know that one.
Oh yeah.
What I can't remember the name. It's not Marquez Monolith. But where you've got that broken water pipe that has the dinosaur hidden in it.
You mean Nabanda Flats?
No, it's one of the aftermath ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe I'm thinking of, like the T-Rex skull in like Endgame.
and it's in this one it's this broken water pipe and it leads into one of the center capture points for conquest, and it's got
Um,
the toy dinosaur that was shown in the campaign. But
let me think.
that's all right. Maybe we can move on.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
Hmm.
next question. So, what's your opinion on games with a long single player and short multiplayer, such as Far Cry and, well, some would argue Uncharted, but it's just a PlayStation exclusive,
Hmm.
versus games with short single player and long multiplayer, such as Call of Duty and Battlefield?
It's definitely something that we need to have, and it's also something that is kind of hurting a lot of what games. All right, obviously, people when they sell these games, I mean, it's a business for them. They need to make money, and
Oh yeah.
if you're selling your game and then some company's selling it used, if you buy it from a store used, that original developer, that original publisher doesn't make the money off of it again. Or if you're renting the game through something like GameFly, or do they even have like brick and mortar game rental stores these days? I don't know.
Yeah.
Redbox. Redbox. All right, that's a good example because Redbox does games now at $2 a day or whatever. So if you do it through that, when Redbox initially purchases all the copies, yeah, the developers, the producers, they actually make money off of that. But they buy, X amount, and then X times 10 or 50 or however many people that rent those games through that service, all those people are not going to get their money towards the developers. So people are trying to come up with all of these sorts of ways to make it so that you don't want to rent a game and you don't want to sell it back to a place to get, whatever, $10 or for whatever
Mm.
for selling a used game. So they take all these single player games that are awesome single player games with really good story driven content and
Oh
great
yeah.
characters like Uncharted, and then they splash in this multiplayer
Oh yeah.
because that
And
multiplayer.
honestly, Uncharted the multiplayer is not bad.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like Halo, honestly. Or at least from the way I played
Mm-hmm.
it was a little bit like Halo. But the multiplayer Uncharted is not that bad, but the single player Uncharted or Uncharted 2, that's the one I played,
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely awesome. I played it like over at least like I don't know 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that might not sound like much, but this is you know
Mm-hmm.
pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean there have definitely been some good success stories. Uncharted did well. Last of Us, I know a lot of people were surprised to see it had multiplayer. I still have yet to play the game, so I can't really speak to the multiplayer or the single player. But I've heard really really good things about its multiplayer. But then there's just those bad ones that come in there for like BioShock 2. What was it? Dead Space. Didn't they do sort of a Left 4 Dead style
I
multiplayer?
think. Wait, did they? I think they did co-op. I'm not sure about the Left 4 Dead style thing, but they might have done that too. I don't know. I'm not really a big like Dead
Yeah,
Space
I
fan.
think it was 4 people versus 4 people in the Left 4 Dead style. I think that's how it was done. So, and those two games they didn't really do all that well for the multiplayer. I know every time I saw a review, read a review, heard a review, whatever, it commented that the multiplayer was just kind of eh. If it came
Yeah.
out 2-3 years ago, then it'd be awesome. But they were just kind of trying to recreate multiplayer experiences that had already come out through things like Left 4 Dead. So it's something that we need. We need to have a dichotomy with, these are single player games, these are multiplayer games. And then there's some that can do them both. But I love having the differences between the two. Things like Battlefield, I played the single player,
As a die.
but I got out of it what I expected. It was just kind of all right, now to get onto the real part, the multiplayer. Obviously things like PlanetSide, there's only multiplayer, so I'm obviously getting out of that what I want. And then there's those just straight up single player type of experiences like BioShock Infinite, which I fell in love with, probably my favorite game of the past 10 years. And it was just an incredible, incredible single player experience that I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want multiplayer in it at all. So,
Oh yeah.
hmm
Okay, so next question and probably the last one.
hmm
So what do you think are the pros and cons of console and PC gaming?
Pros and cons. All right. Well, obviously, I don't know if many of the people know this, many of the subscribers, but I do have consoles. I've got a PlayStation 3. I've got a Wii. I used to have an Xbox 360, but I sold it probably around when Gears 2 and Fable 2 came out because I was really looking forward to those. They came out and they sucked really bad, in my opinion. And at that point, I realized, this console has no exclusives that interest me at all, and every multi-platform game I get is on the PC, so might as well sell it and get some store credit. So I did, and but in terms of the two consoles, they've got a simplicity to them. They've got that plug and
Mm-hmm.
playness. Granted, that's kind of changing. Consoles are becoming more like PCs as time progresses. Now you've got. I remember back in the day, people always complained, oh, well, I like to play on my console because I don't have to worry about with, driver updates and patches and things like that. And nowadays, every time I turn my PlayStation on, not only just to play like a game that, Uncharted 3, I'm still in the process of beating that. And the other day, I, log on to that and I had to update Uncharted 3. I had to update PlayStation Network. And then when I wanted to watch some Netflix on the TV to just go to sleep to, I'm, prepped and ready to go to bed, and then all of a sudden, oh, you've got to update Netflix. So it's like nowadays, and I think I've seen this on the Wii here and there. It doesn't do as many updates because it's the
Mm-hmm.
Wii, but there have been times when I get a new game, but I get it like a month after it released. It has an update. So consoles are getting to that point somewhat, and next generation, who knows, it might be
Mm-hmm.
even, I mean, you're going to be seeing things like PlanetSide on the PlayStation 4. That gets
Oh yeah.
updates weekly and monthly. So
Yeah, and pretty good example of this is Minecraft on the Xbox 360. I mean, that thing is at least like what 20, 30 updates behind.
oh, is it? I don't play Minecraft on either. I played it in alpha and beta on the PC, but
Oh yeah,
I can imagine. I do
yeah.
remember that
Believe
thing
me,
got
that thing
updates.
is at least 20 or 30 like updates behind. I mean, I don't have Xbox 360, but I played at a friend's house,
Hmm.
and Jesus Christ, that thing was nothing like the Minecraft on PC.
Well, I mean, I know Microsoft, they're really sticklers when it comes to their. Yeah, I mean, because it costs them money to do these
Oh yeah,
updates. I mean, it uses a
but
lot
come
of
on, Bill
bandwidth.
Gates has like what $60 billion.
Well, Bill Gates doesn't work for Microsoft anymore.
Wow, what really?
Yeah, yeah, he branched off from them quite a while ago. He
Oh.
still does have a lot of money. He just has no ties to Microsoft anymore. But
Oh well, I did not know that, but then again, I don't stalk people.
well, it was just I mean, it was a pretty big news story when it came out, but I mean, nobody talks about it anymore. So it's just yeah, obviously something like that with Microsoft's policy on game updates from the. I mean, I know that's why Battlefield tied all of their big patches to the actual DLC releases, to the big, when Aftermath came out, when In-Game came out. That's when
Yeah,
they did their patches because it cost them money if they wanted to do the patch
so
separately.
it's
So
like
they,
two, one stone.
yeah, wait for you to do just
And
this one update.
I feel you don't even refer to patches as like the 1.7 patch. You just refer to them as the Strike Karkin patch, or not the Strike Karkin, the Back to Karkin patch,
Hmm.
the Aftermath
Hmm.
patch, the Armor Kill patch. Like
Yeah.
just
So that's one of the. I mean, consoles losing some of their simplicity. But they are definitely still very plug and play. You don't have to build a console. Yeah, you can change out the hard drive in the PlayStation and even put like something like a solid state drive into the PlayStation and things
yeah.
like that, which I've done. I mean,
Yeah, and funny story about that. One of my friends actually did that,
mhm.
and when the next patch came along, he couldn't sign. He couldn't like sign onto the PlayStation Network, or he couldn't play the game, something like that. So there's still some problems with that.
Interesting. I haven't had any problems with my solid state in my PlayStation, and the thing is that you really don't even get that much a speed benefit out of it, just because the games are not really built with in mind to be like, oh, this could be on a solid state. So they still take a little bit of time to load, but. So all right, yeah. So that's what consoles. They've got their simplicity. They got you've got everything is all integrated. You've got PlayStation Network is the online thing on computer. You've got Origin, you've got Steam. Ubisoft has their Uplay thing. Yeah, there's a whole lot of chaos. So it definitely takes a little bit more time to get situated with PC gaming.
Yeah, but once you do, you're never gonna go back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you it's
Well,
not
you
that
might
you
go back for like
it's
some
not that you
exclusive
go
titles, but
it's not that you go back. You just make time for both, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of what I do. I mean, obviously, all my
Like
multi-platform.
if you had like 3 hours a day, how would you spend it gaming? Like, would you play on the PlayStation or just play on the PC? You would play on the PC, obviously.
Yeah, I mean that again. That's why I keep my Wii and the PS3 around. It's for their exclusives.
Oh yeah.
All multi-platform. I got to get it on my PC. Every now and then I'll get like Call of Duty on the PlayStation so that I can play it with my brother because he plays everything on PlayStation. We'll do like the zombie mode together or something like that. But
Oh yeah.
those are just things that it's to play with my brother. Um, PC. You got the graphics, you got the controls, you got mods. Only temporarily you've got the higher player counts for things like Battlefield, but soon to be they'll be slightly on par with the.
Well, that's slightly on par. They will be on par.
Yeah, for the player count, you'll have 64 players on the Battlefield 4 for the next gen consoles and PC. But I mean, like it happened with this previous gen, or well, I guess this current gen. After time, it does improve because PCs improve monthly, yearly, weekly. I mean, there's always new video cards coming out. There's always new CPUs. There's always more RAM and just
Oh
all
hell
sorts
yeah.
of things. So PC, that's the biggest perk. That's the biggest pro that PC has
That you
is
can update it. You can
yeah,
update the hardware.
it's completely open platform.
Hmm.
hardware-wise and software-wise. It's just always improving, and any company that wants, it's got good competition. Competition is obviously a good thing. You've got AMD and Nvidia. You've got AMD versus Intel, fighting it out to make the best things for good prices, and that constantly has innovation going on. And then you've got things like Steam is fighting Origin, and recently Origin actually did a really good thing with the
Oh yeah,
the
I
Origin
saw a couple
bundle.
videos on that.
Yeah, the Origin bundle, and they've got their return policy now with digital purchased games, and that's something that Steam doesn't have. So maybe they'll come out with their own version, probably a better version, because that's how competition works. You can't just come out with a subpar version later. Otherwise, nobody will care. So, competition is great. The constant developing for it is great. Things like when the PlayStation Network went down for, was it almost a month when they got
Yeah,
hacked?
almost a month. Like it was like 28 days.
Yeah, things like that. That sucked. I mean, that really, really, really sucked.
That sucked dick.
And something like that
Well,
can't
yeah,
happen on.
that kind of sucked. But then again, I was just playing Uncharted single player at the time, so I don't really give a fuck.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, you can always play the single player, but still, the
Right.
thought of that really really sucks. People forget that Sega used to have something called the Dreamcast. This entire console died off very quickly, and the likelihood of this happening for entire companies and an entire console to just drop off the face of the planet, it's obviously rare. It's not a common occurrence. But the
Yeah,
fact
but
that it
Nintendo's getting there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Nintendo, they've been struggling. They really are just living off of casual and super, super hardcore fans. So, I mean, this Nintendo might not be around for a long time unless they change their marketing
Yeah,
style.
honestly, I think the Wii U, if they don't step up, if like Nintendo don't step up their game, the Wii U is probably gonna be their last console.
I doubt the Wii U will be their last. They still have a ton of money.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they made tons off
but
the
I mean,
Wii.
the last console that anyone's gonna actually buy, like
Mm, time will tell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nintendo is it's kind of one of those things like they're too big to fail at this point, which I don't believe in that. But
Hell
they
no.
they themselves they've just got so much money that they themselves are not going to let themselves fail, and their hardcore dedicated fan base is not going to let them fail. But stuff like that could potentially happen. Not necessarily the whole console falling off the face of the planet, but something like Xbox Live going down or PlayStation Network going down like it did. I know recently Xbox Live, not recently, but in the past month, Xbox Live went down for a few hours, almost an entire day, or maybe it was 2 days, and nobody could play Halo or Call of Duty or Battlefield online.
But come on, dude, that was just one day.
True, but that
That's
still
what
existed.
PlayStation. It was a month, but then again, the Xbox with you had to pay for like to play online, so they got all the extra money from that, which they could just dump into repairing the network.
Yeah, but things like that I feel like are only going to become more common. There's more credit card information tied out there. There's more personal information tied out there. That's only going to encourage hackers to want to get into these things and put these networks on lockdown. And
Oh, yeah.
the
And
systems.
that's the reason why I think PlayStation, like the next gen PlayStation console, the PS4, you had to pay to play online now. I'm pretty sure most of you PlayStation fans already know that, but if you don't, bam, newsflash for you. But this will be good because it'll probably prevent things like what happened, like 28 days, man. Come on, that's almost a month.
Yeah.
So this probably probably just go down for like a couple hours.
Yeah, but in addition to it, the systems they're becoming more complicated. They're more complex, so fixing them is going to be a lot more difficult. Back in the day, errors were very simple. There was only a few locations that these computer engineers had to look to what could possibly be causing this. But nowadays, everything is so complex. There's so much going on. So I feel like in next gen, you're just going to see more of these occurrences of hourly and daily dropouts of network. Hopefully, they're making every aspect of their they're trying to figure out how to prevent this, but you can only do so much. So that's about all I got to say on that part. hmm
Yeah, so that wraps up our first Q&A. We will be doing this in 5 question segments. Don't worry, I got a shit ton of questions, so they're not gonna be going anywhere. So stay tuned for part 2, 3, 4. 5, and probably a dual com talking about all the great new Battlefield 4 information coming out of PAX.
Mm-hmm.
So, peace out.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Ta-ta.